I want to talk about broody hens and troubleshooting a little bit when it comes to breeding game fowl. I'll use this pen for an example because I am focused on 5 sisters for this pen. Okay, I use the same cock. They all have the same sire, but there was 4 of them that had the same mother, so they were single mated. So a nice hen of mine, brown red, but the one sister had a different mother and she had a dark face. But either way, there's 5 sisters, four full sisters. And I started them out in this little coop here, and she's broody. They go through, I'll talk about that. I started them out here. There was 4 and then 5 at one point. And it's going on since they were, sexually mature. So they were pullets, they weren't hens, right? Because they hatched 2 years ago. They'll be 2 years old in probably April, May. I think the majority of them hatched May 2023. Anyway, the reason I didn't breed them last year is because this little coop was probably too crowded, even with the 4 of them. And they were egg eating or just trying to crowd and get onto the nest of their sister and cracking eggs. It just wasn't working out. So even if chicks did hatch, and then me and my wife went to Europe for two weeks, it was just madness. So it didn't work out. That was last year. That would have been like, okay, they're pullets, let's breed them. Well, now they're getting on to be hens, and they're starting to fill out. My brown red hens are pretty hefty, pretty solid. They are not a small, light family. Okay, so, and I'm not going to try to change them because they're a parent strain. I'm not going to get into that right now. But so what I tried doing, I took this material here. We were throwing this out at work back in my old job, and just some, military nylon netting for camouflage or whatever. And I just had it laying around. It's good enough for the Northwoods, Maine. It's good enough for a sheltered hen house, but I just wanted to provide some privacy because they're going in here, and I put wooden eggs in here. And these nest boxes. My mother uses golf balls. A lot of people use golf balls, but I get these on Amazon. They look like actual eggs. They're wooden. I prefer them. And also it helps me to gauge like what a hen can handle. They'll go broody, and then obviously I replace with my actual fertilized eggs. Okay. Well, I guess the eggs weren't really working, and they wanted to go in here and mess with this sister right here that went broody. And this is one of my more highly anticipated breedings. Last year they were too, because I wanted, I just love these. They were my best pullets from 2023. And so I'm glad I got 5 of them. So what I did was I put some, I didn't build this, right? And this can be open in the back, but these aren't egg laying chickens. These are game fowl, and I'm trying to breed them. So this is a really good coop, but I had to do something to eliminate them from like jumping barriers and landing on the nest. And so more on that. This is just my observation and my opinion, right? But picture this. If the advice is you have to collect eggs, and then they have to be set within 10 days. Otherwise, they lose hatchability. Well, there's a couple thoughts on this. First, imagine a 2.5-pound jungle fowl, whether it's a gray or a Ceylon or a green. Like, how long is it going to take that little hen to fill a nest of, let's say 8, and if we're being generous, let's say a dozen? How long do you think it's going to take a little 2.5-pound jungle fowl hen, to lay a nest like that before she goes broody? It might take a while, And I asked my buddy this question because, like, we're talking about that, like hatching eggs, storing eggs, collecting eggs. If it's cool, I've had them sit there, and you'd think they wouldn't hatch, and they still do. So yeah, it's best to just collect them and set them under a hen. I say within 2 weeks. And so part of that instinct of crowding a nest or whatever, probably it takes a while. It takes a lot of energy for that little tiny wild jungle hen, right? And she's trying to fill a nest. So their instinct is to just, if they see a nest, like a hen wants to steal away and hide. So if one of, let's say, the relative, they're all related if they're in the wild, and it's a harem with one cock and then some subordinate cockerels, right? It's like a lion pride. They're all related, right? So if they go up if they walk up and sneak up into a good spot, because it looks like a good spot, other hens are going to be curious. They're very inquisitive if you watch them. And a hen finds a nest, well, she's going to want to lay eggs on that same nest. And I think, biologically, it's like, yeah, the genetic variability is there. They're going to want to lay eggs, with their kith and kin. It's going to be their aunt, their mother, their sister, their cousin, whoever it is. But that female in their harem is related to them. So they're going to want to go to that nest and crowd it and lay on it. And that's why you'll get 2 hens regularly, especially if they're sisters and they get along. They're trying to hatch eggs. And I've seen them do it. I've seen them successfully hatch together. I've seen them successfully stick together with a clutch like a pair of dinosaurs and raise some chicks, and it was cool. That's not common, but it is common to crowd a nest, and that's why it's best to single mate, obviously. So I tried putting these curtains in here, and ultimately last night I decided to put their sisters. I took, and I don't really care about them being full sisters for the next pen idea, but I took 3 of them. There's 5, right? 5 sisters. I took 3 of them and put them with this one's brother. And I'll talk more on that. And it's not ideal, but it'll work for me, and I will know what I'm looking at. It's not recommended. Once I get to that pen, I'll explain. But so, because I'm just trying to see what this cross is like, and I really want to get some chicks from these hens on the ground. And I got 5 of them, and they were just too crowded in here for whatever reason, so I switched it up and put them in basically the quote-unquote muff pen. It's like I consolidated all the muff hens and pullets that I was thinking about, and I just, like a mad bastard, just went around and reorganized and threw hens in different roosts and took them out of there. And then I just verified my notes, verified markings, verified wing numbers and everything, and I put 3 of the sisters with his brother and some nice muff pullets and young muff hens. And so I'll talk about that pen later. But this is just me, shooting the breeze. And when a hen goes broody, she's not broody. But when you first see a broody hen, they go through both a physical and physiological change. It's like psychological. Rather, I meant to say it's physiological, but it's also psychological. They have their disposition changes. They start making noises you never heard them make. They enter into like a fever. Their body changes quite a bit. And so they're just really vulnerable, and you need to kind of baby them. And because of their physiological changes, right, and they're acting different, some cocks will get aggressive and not understand or whatever, and they'll try to kick them or something. So you got to be really mindful and probably stay on top of the stags or the cocks that they're with. Once they start going broody, ideally, you'd remove the stag or the cock and let that hen be, but that requires a lot of space. And, each year you got to adjust and take notes and try to improve. That's how this whole thing works. That's how farming works. That's why they call it grandfather knowledge. Ideally, you would have had someone around that's been around and tell you some things. Or anyway, every year you got to adjust. So ideally, remove the stag or the cock once the hens go broody, because you can wind up with a dead hen because, or whatever, she got seriously hurt unnecessarily because maybe that cock or stag just doesn't know what's happening and he doesn't like it. And they'll sometimes do that. They'll just attack a hen for no reason, and it really is not cool, but, pay attention to that stuff.